Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports, coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond in London, England, as well as Paris, France. Of course, you good old boys in Canada, you know we love you in Africa, the Big C tribe, but there's no one we love more than the good old boys down south in the land of the free and the home of the brave on a beautiful August 20th, 2018, Big C. How's it going for you good old boys down south?
Charlton, today is just another party as it is all over the world. You know, today is the 90th birthday of Friendship Willie. and I think most of you people know him as Mickey Mouse. You know, you think 90 years ago,
okay,
Mickey Mouse was formed, you know, and he was originally a guy named Steamship Willie.
Yeah.
And you got to understand, this guy, the financial basis of his foundation was only $300 to invent this character, Charlton.
Wow.
$300 to invent Steamship Willie 90 years ago. Now, if you were to go to one of the Disney parks as a parent, the minute you walk through the gate, you start to cringe. And every time you walk past one of the Disney stores, you're trying to turn your kid's head the other way.
Yeah.
Because it's $300 every time you walk in with a kid.
Yeah, that's funny. I just think that's incredible. So many people have been to Disneyland, and mostly when I took a mousetrap, I got so many people looking bad at me when I was setting up mousetraps. I had no idea what Mickey Mouse meant, Big C. And I think a lot of people are setting up mousetraps for some of these quarterbacks that were just in college last year, and they're saying, let's make him a starter today. I'm telling you, baseball is in the full swing of things. The Oakland A's were tied for first place for about 3 hours until them good old boys from Houston got one game out of Oakland. But a lot of things happening in the sports universe. Had a lot of good football. At least it seemed some of the star players playing for the first half of football, at least the first one or two possessions, Big C. So a lot of good things happening in this universe. I still want to say our thoughts and prayers are with the Queen of Soul, Aretha Franklin. I've listened to so much of her music just over the past couple of days. You kind of take it for granted, Big C. I know you've been doing the same thing, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, you know, one of the things, Charlton, that so many people do is they want to resonate about somebody's life when they're gone.
Yeah.
You have to celebrate life while it's here.
Amen.
We all know that we can have memories and photographs and recordings of an individual, Charlton, but the ultimate respect that you pay to somebody, whether it's a family member or somebody that you know, is during their lifetime.
Yeah.
You know, when someone passes, people always want to say, well, it's a celebration of their life. You celebrate life while life can see you.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, my mother's always told me, it's like, don't bring me flowers because they go away. Bring me a plant because I can keep it going.
Amen.
And that's what life is like. It's a live entity. That's what you celebrate, being able to nourish and cherish and watch it grow. And that's what these plants do. That's why when you walk in a lot of elderly people's houses, Charlton, they have plants, not flowers around the place.
Yeah.
You know, they can go in, they can water them, they talk to them, and, you know, I talk to mine, and mine go in my yard.
Yeah.
But, you know, that's what the celebration is. You know, the Queen of Soul has left so many indelible memories among the world, Charlton, not just America or Detroit, among the world.
Yep.
And people are, you know, resonating in that today and yesterday, and will continue to do it for a while. But the thing about a memory is something that you create that's everlasting.
Yes.
Just like her songs. You know, they're everlasting, and all you need is 2 bars, and you know it's her.
Yeah.
And so to listen to the celebration that America and the world has put on for the Queen the past several days, Charlton, is a great revelation of how we can be as people.
Yeah.
When we care about somebody or something that's being done. When something is being done with honor, integrity, and respect.
Yep.
That's what she did. Only if our administration could learn from her, Charlton,
Yeah.
to have honor, integrity, and respect, our world would be such a better place.
Yep.
And that's her song.
I agree. The respect. And so we all appreciate, and you're always sad at first, but then you get happy and realize this woman sowed a lot of good seeds in our lives. I do want to say today's segment is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you. Now, I know you said something about Big Willie. I was thinking maybe Free Willie's birthday, but Mickey Mouse. Okay, so I appreciate I just learned something today on the Big C Sports Show. I'll tell you, my favorite ride as I've gone to the Disneyland and seen some of the parks, and I think it was this one called the Upside Down roller coaster. It was called Soaring Over California, or California Screaming is what it was. And I remember they recently changed the name on California Screaming. I don't know why they call it California Screaming. They could call it California Wet Your Pants, because I think that's what I did the first time I went on the California Screaming, Big C. What's your favorite roller coaster or amusement park ride when you've gone to one of the amusement parks, Big C? Your thoughts?
Yeah, my favorite ride, Charlton, is taking that slow motion, that umbrella ride across the park.
Yeah.
Where you can just take your time, nice slow pace, because as you get old, you don't want many body parts moving at a rapid pace.
Yeah.
You might not be able to control some things. So, I just want to be able to get up under that nice little umbrella parachute and ride at a nice slow pace, be able to observe everybody, Charlton.
Yep.
And laugh at a few.
Yeah, that's always fun. But I love wishing happy birthday to everybody. Something that I've heard over the years is that they say there's 86,400 seconds in every day, and we don't even think about that sometimes. But something that happened to me since the passing of Aretha Franklin. Of course, I've had my own loved ones that I pine over and mourn over and celebrate life over. That 86,400 seconds in a day is there for everybody. So no matter whatever you're doing, no matter what you're going through, you still get 86,400 seconds a day. And what I think about every day that we get the chance to do the Big C Sports Show, it's one of my most joyful times of day, because I get to talk about the sports, a little bit of politics, religion, but for the most part, I want to sow some seeds into some young people so that maybe they can start their own sports program and their own political program, or something that you mentioned, planting a tree as opposed to bringing flowers. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, planting a tree, it's the seeds, the foundation of life. When you talk about starting things, you have to have a basis. The basis of everything fundamental-wise in society, Charlton, is reading.
Yeah.
Reading at grade level. We talk, just like many other people who have programs like ours, about sports.
Yeah.
About how performances are, what this athlete has done, what's expected of that athlete, Charlton. What should be expected of any and everybody in society, regardless of what profession you're in, is being able to read.
Yep.
We talk a lot about the youth sports, in the United States, but so many of those youth that are in those sports, Charlton, can't even read at the grade level that they're in.
Yeah.
And I'm not just talking about any part of society. I'm talking about all of society, Charlton. And that's something that a lot of people don't look at. Wow, he's a great athlete. He's really fast. He can jump. He's really tall for his age. But what's his reading level? What grade is he reading at?
Yeah.
That's the question that so many people don't ask. I mean, we even have college recruiters that don't look at that. When you look at some of these private high schools who go out and recruit athletes, they recruit them on ability for the most part.
Yeah.
They don't ask what their reading level is.
Yeah.
And so much of society is left behind because they can't read. I mean, you can tell a guy to play, he can run it a few times, and he can remember that.
Yeah.
But you can pass a playbook to a lot of players. They can follow the diagram, but they can't read what the play says.
Yeah.
And so I even remember going back to high school, and we had players just go left, go right. This is what they were telling, run off tackle.
Yep.
Because they could not remember the play call sequence with the number involvement in it. So they would tell them where to run to. And so that's the biggest problem that I see in people getting started in anything, Charlton.
Yeah.
Yes, we talk about our brethren a lot on television, where they're reading the teleprompter and they're reading the script that they have in their hands.
Yes.
That's the fundamentals of getting there, Charlton. Having the basis of reading in your background so that you have knowledge. I do a lot of reading every day. I don't have a script that I run from.
Yeah.
I get lost in my glasses, whatever they're saying periodically.
When they fall down, yeah.
It's about understanding.
Yeah.
And being And once we all learn how to read, and that's the basic fundamentals of any young athlete. I don't care how fast they are.
Yeah.
I don't care how high they can jump. I don't care how far they can hit a baseball. But can they read, Charlie? Can they read at grade level? Can a third grader read at third grade level? Can a sophomore in high school read at sophomore level?
Yep.
That's what we need to strive more for in society.
Yeah, I tell you what, Big C, it's always, and we're going to get a little static on your microphone. We're going to clear that up. Hopefully we get Putin off. I know they've been investigating, the White House has been investigating the connection with Russia. They need to do the investigating of who's tapping the Big C Sports line, but we're working on clearing your microphone up, Big C. But I think what you said is so fundamental. I think back to some of the youth that I've met over the years, and they're so smart. They're so smart with their electronics, but we want to make sure that they also have the fundamentals of reading, and a lot of them are really good at a lot of things, but electronics have taken over. In the days of people picking up the newspaper or that magazine, like a lot of grandparents did, it's just picking up and reading.
I can't keep my paper out?
You can keep that paper out, Big C, but don't throw the newspaper into your neighbor's flower. Sometimes they don't want to see that, but definitely that's what I appreciate in my 86,400 seconds a day, being able to do some things that are very near and dear to my heart. Speaking of being near and dear, Tyson Fury. I mean, talk about a heavyweight champion, a 10th round unanimous decision. Here's a guy that has done such a great job as a fighter, but at the same time, may not be the most marketed guy in the world, but he has a dominant record, Big C, in the world of boxing. Your thoughts?
Well, you think about being 40 and old, Charlton, as heavyweight champion of the world, and no one knows who you are.
Yep.
You know, he's 9 fights away from Rocky Marciano's heavyweight record. He just signed a big deal to have an HBO fight in Vegas at the end of this year, first of next year. So maybe the world will actually finally find out who Tyson is and the Fury that he fights with. He's just a dominant, chiseled heavyweight. He really looks like a 6'5" Mike Tyson physically.
Really?
He is just a behemoth, Charlton. He goes out with precision. He's an excellent boxer, tactician. He is skilled for a man of his size, and that's what we don't see so much in boxing anymore. And if there's anybody that's going to make people interested in boxing, especially in the heavyweight ranks, Charlton, it's going to be this young man. And if he can keep his unbeaten streak alive and get close to this Marciano record within 2 or 3 fights, it's going to be a world-renowned thing because everyone is going to become interested in heavyweight boxing again, Charles.
Isn't that amazing? I'm going to ask just for the sake of asking, because boxing has been dominated by African-American fighters. And I know Floyd Mayweather has a 50-0 record, but that's for a smaller division than Marciano back in the day. But had he been a person of color, had he been a black fighter, do you think that maybe he would have gotten more publicity? Because a lot of times people just assume that anyone with a winning record is going to get all the media publicity. But you mentioned about being a guy that could be like a Tyson. Do you think there's a little bit of color that's hurting him as far as being able to market him in a game the way Don King or Aaron would have marketed him back in the day? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, actually, he is a black fighter. He just happens to be out of England.
Yeah.
And just like with Riddick Bowe and other heavyweight champions that have come, not Riddick Bowe, but I'm trying to think of the young man that was a Canadian champion, but he was out of England in the Olympics. You know, these guys, because they're not American and you don't see them every day, they're not household names. And that's what has occurred with the heavyweight champions we saw here.
Yeah.
You know, whether it was Holmes, whether it was Tyson, whether it was Holyfield, Ali, Spinks, these guys were Americans.
Yeah.
So they were part of the American marketing genre, is that they were always available to the sports stations. But when you're in England and you live basically in obscurity and in America, MMA has become the number one thing, Charlton.
Yep.
Is that they fight often. I mean, every week there's an MMA fight somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, it's so. I mean, in Michael Vick's world, it's a dog fighting everybody's house somewhere.
Everybody's fighting dogs someplace.
You know, but that's where the MMA has gotten to. It's consistent action. You know, when we look at the boxing world, there's 12 months between fights, Charlton.
Yeah.
You think about the last big fight. That was Manny Pacquiao.
Yeah.
The last big fight before Manny Pacquiao was Mayweather.
Yep.
Look at the length of time that passed between championship fights, Charlton, that people had interest in.
Yeah.
You know, Canelo fights kept getting canceled because of drug allegations.
Allegations, yep.
But the MMA, they fight every week. You know, it's like going filling up your car. If you don't fill up your car, there's going to be an MMA fight that night.
Yeah, that's funny.
You know, that's how it is. So Americans want instant gratification.
Yeah.
And without having that instant gratification, the world of professional boxing no longer brings. I remember growing up, there was always the Friday night fights that you could watch on television. And my great-grandfather and his friends, they used to gather around the television. Black and white, look, round two. You know, these old men sitting there, and you thought a fight was going to break out with them.
Yeah.
They sitting there. They were in church on Sunday. But Friday night, it was a sin fest.
And they pray for forgiveness, yep.
And so, but, you know, we don't have that anymore.
Yeah.
Because there's so many other interests and alternatives in an entertainment world now with these multi-channel televisions that you can have instant gratification sports-wise, whether something is going on today or when you're watching a highlight reel from 10 to 12 years ago, Tom.
Yeah, and I think about, I was just watching some fights over the weekend, but I was watching Ali when he was getting ready to fight George Foreman, and just watching the build-up to that fight, and they were not 40-0. But just that build-up, it captured the world, and Ali was a magician, you know, Drew Boudini Brown, and giving him the mantra, the positive thinking, the guru. He was a Tony Robbins before Tony Robbins got popular, Big C, and working with Ali, with all you got to use, how can you lose, and float like a butterfly, sting like a bee, rumble, young men rumble. All of that was hype, build-up. Fury doesn't have that, and if he does, it's more downplayed, the way Ali had it back in the day, and a lot of fighters have it now. Even talking about a guy coming from overseas, an Irish guy, and when you had Floyd Money Mayweather fighting the MMA fighter and McGregor, and he brought that advertisement machine with him that Fury just doesn't have, even though his record's very impressive. Your thoughts, Big C?
Well, Charlton, it's what you don't see every day. You don't have to sit up and build up the promotion of a heavyweight fight, any boxing match anymore, Charlton, because there's so much in between. That's where life is now. You know, you can't turn on a channel any time of the day and not watch some sport event. Whether you're watching a cornhole tossing championship, whether you're watching Little League World Series, whether you're watching rugby, Charlton, whether you're watching field hockey, ladies soccer, you know, anything that you want to see, Little League baseball, I mean, it's there.
Yeah.
You're watching spring games of football on television now, Charlton.
Yeah.
You're watching all the highlights from last year and the last 10 years on television, Charlton. Most conferences, especially in college sports, have their own networks now.
Yeah, they do.
So there's a 24-hour feed of highlight shows. Whether it's from this year or 12 years ago, Charlton, you're going to see it.
Yeah.
You know, when you got the NFL network, it's 24 hours a day pro football.
Yeah.
Is what you're getting. You're getting that constantly. And even in training camp now, Charlton, they're showing training camp all the way through.
Yeah.
So if you're broadcasting training camp, Charlton, the only time people want to see something in the sports world is that it's actually happening.
Yeah.
So how much can you hype a boxing match? When Ali was boxing and Frazier and George Foreman, you watch these guys with Steve Bag, Sugar Ray Leonard.
Yep.
You know, you go into their training camp, and you would see that was interesting. See what it took for these guys to develop themselves for that fight.
Yeah.
Now it's like, let's get to the fight, okay? Right now I'm watching highlights of other stuff. Let's just get to the fight.
Yeah. I tell you what, man, it's something that when you talk about fanfare and how people watch whatever they watch, for the first time in my life, I went to the mailbox the other day, and I didn't find a bill, but I did find a Nielsen rating box. They wanted me to fill out the card, and it went to Nielsen rating. Now, I've never had that in my life, and they say how the ratings are down with certain sports, but I haven't been one of those people to receive that. I think if they're going to use me filling out that Nielsen rating and giving them my access to whatever media I'm watching to see if ratings are up or down, I tell you, I watch so much stuff on my phone, I don't even know if I need TV anymore. Of course, it's good that you can't watch the game on your phone when you got 30 people hitting around, Big C. It kind of gets too crowded. But I think a lot of times when they say ratings are down, I just think it's because I see so many people, Big C, and they're watching the games and the news on their phones. I don't know if ratings are down more than technology's up, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, you know, it's like last week, Charlton, we talked about NASCAR ratings being down. and their attendance being down.
Yeah.
But no one's crying about NASCAR's ratings being down or their attendance being down. We know that golf ratings have been down for the last decade.
Yes.
But there's no cry about that. You think about when they talk about ratings being down in sports. It's minority-based sports that they're talking about the ratings being down in. No one cried about ratings being down in other sports talking for a decade. Golf was down. No one said anything about that in a large spectrum.
Yeah.
You know, NASCAR being down for the past year, they've lost half their ratings in the last year.
Yeah.
No one's crying about that.
Yeah.
But the people say that the football ratings are down, and they're saying it's down because of the black players. You know, but what's the NASCAR ratings down behind?
Yeah.
Is it down behind the black drivers? we know that the golf ratings are down because of the one black golfer.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you look at that, I mean, there's some truth to that.
Yeah.
But, you know, you have to be honest also, Charlton, as you say. You have a phone. As many other people have phones and tablets because they're on the move. You can watch a game now on the dash in your car or those flip-down monitors in your car, Charlton.
Yeah, they do.
You don't have to be at home. And the last I checked, none of those had a mailbox attached to them to find out, you know, if you're watching it in your car or on your phone. So it's a little misleading, you know, the old tracking methods that used to exist, whether they were in radio and television.
Yeah.
How do you monitor what someone pays attention to? So how do you charge your advertising?
Yep.
Sometimes you just got to believe in word of mouth.
Yeah.
Of these people, like, hey, this is how I view these things.
Yeah.
And I always wanted to understand, you know, when the guy is at the game and he's walked away to go to the facilities and he's holding his phone, you know, while he's in the facility. Who's monitoring how he's watching it?
The guy next to him, and the guy called surveyors. I don't want that guy monitoring what I'm doing when I'm doing my break. But I think there's so much technology. You talked about, you know, Mickey Mouse having the 90th birthday, and back in the day when people bought a ticket to a Disneyland or to Disney World, I know Disneyland for sure, they would actually go and buy their tickets at the gate. Now, nowadays, or I'm sure they could order them somehow, but most people would buy them at the gate. But now you order them online. Everything is done online. And the thing with the football, and I was watching the USC Notre Dame game from 2005 last week because I was pining over football, Big C. I still say that was a touchdown. Reggie Bush, they called it the Bush push. But that you can actually bump guys. They do it all the time. But then watching just over the weekend, Ali and his fight against Foreman. Now, I watched it on my phone. No one called me to see what I'm watching. So even Nielsen's behind the times when they want to send it to see your cable box. I can tell you, talking to a lot of people in media, if you're not doing OTT advertising, which is over-the-top television, you're going to be wasting a lot of money on someone putting a cable box into your home or that cable wire, because that's the way a lot of people are going. You take your phone with you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Some people even take it in the showers, Big C, and I know that's the case because I dropped mine in the shower one time. I'm like, why don't I get my phone? The game's not that important, but I learned the hard way. You put rice on it, and hopefully when you put enough rice on it, it starts to dry out, Big C. But with everybody saying that the ratings are whatever they are, you got to get to OTT advertising, and that's what we're doing with Big C Sports as we're streaming and doing some TV platforms, and now and being in post-production with that. There's a lot of good things coming. But I want to just say again, congratulations to all the, you know, Tyson Fury. It's a furious that you don't have as much publicity as some of the fighters. You don't have your record, of course. But keep on throwing punches. I'm sure you'll get there. But speaking of throwing punches, we talked about the Oakland A's, and I think back to the days of Billy Ball. And I think about all of the people that are leaving the Oakland area for their sports. Golden State going back to San Francisco. And, of course, you have the Raiders for some reason going to Las Vegas. Well, the Coliseum on Sunday had about 30,000 fans, and it holds about 40,000. For the baseball, they have about 35,000 to 40,000. It was a good series against Houston. They were in first place for about 3 hours on Sunday, and then they couldn't hold it down. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, Houston came in playing against the red-hot A's team. And you got to look at how they played since the middle of June. But, Houston needed to get off the snide. They put their ace on the mound, Justin Verlander, who was able to come away with a much-needed victory for the Astros. And this is last year's World Series championship. It's great for the Bay Area and it's great for baseball to see a small-market team try to being as competitive as the A's are. And it would be great to see them make the playoffs, whether it's winning the division or even a wild card team. I think that's some needed excitement. Not since the Giants' last World Series as we have the Bay Area had this type of excitement in it, Charlie. We know that the Dodgers down the other end of the state of California was there last year against Houston. But to have the A's resonate back to, when you had, the A's of the early 70s, Charlie, you had the Bash Brothers in. This is an opportunity to resonate. We've seen what the Warriors have done the past several years in the NBA. To have a little bit of that, old-time magic on a city that's about to lose the heart and soul of its sports base, Charlton, would be great for the area.
I think when I saw back in the day Rickey Henderson, I think the best base stealer of all, and you think about Rickey Henderson, and you think about Barry Bonds. Whenever Barry Bonds was up to bat, people stopped what they were doing because they wanted to see if Barry would hit a home run, whether they played at Candlestick or whether they played at AT&T Park. Rickey Henderson did the same thing about 10 years before. Whenever he played, when he was on up to bat, people watched it too. But I think Rickey's excitement was even more exciting when he got on first base because you wanted to see could Rickey Henderson steal another base. Barry Bonds at one time had stolen the 40 bases on the year, but he didn't have the electricity in the crowd the way Rickey Henderson did. Rickey's probably one of the few guys in baseball that you wanted to see what happened as he was standing on first base, more so than what was happening as he was at home plate. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, he was dominant on both sides of it. If you think about it, he's the all-time leadoff home run king. Not only is he the stolen base champ of all time, but he's the leadoff home run king of all time in baseball. So he created a problem every time that you saw him. You didn't want him to get on base, but you also didn't want him to lead off the game with a home run, Charlie. Rickey was such a dynamic player. He was a tremendous high school running back, but he chose the path of baseball. He was drafted right out of high school by the A's, chose to sign with them. And, the A's for decades, Charlton, had an accounting problem because Rickey signed, and he had this $1 million check. It was the first $1 million check that he got from the A's. And at the end of that season, Charlton, they called him. They said, "Look, Rickey, we are $1 million off in our accounting, and we know we wrote you a check for $1 million. You have any idea what happened to it?" He said, "Yeah. It's sitting up on the wall. I framed it."
Well, I wonder if he ever cashed it because I think
they only have a 180-day expiration date on it, so I think they had to write in a new check.
I'm sure when that one expired, they went back and wrote Rickey another check. Make sure you cash that $1 million check. What would people do with not that kind of money nowadays? But I think that's when you go back to the days that the Oakland A's made people show up at the Coliseum. They didn't have Mount Davis back in the day. You could actually see the East Bay Hills. But it's good to see the sports fans of Oakland being rewarded by a franchise that knows they don't have the new stadium. But for people that say we need a new stadium, I look at a lot of stadiums that are empty even though they're brand new. Cincinnati, the Reds, with their game with the San Francisco Giants over the weekend, that's a gorgeous stadium right there on the river in Cincinnati, Ohio, but it probably had about 15,000 fans in it. I look at Fenway Park in Boston, that's not a new stadium. I look at Wrigley Field, that's not a new stadium in Chicago. But they don't have a hard time packing the house, and there's no excuse that we're not winning because we don't have a stadium that was built in the last 5 years. There's something about tradition. I would love to see Oakland embrace that. Maybe even when the Raiders leave, tear down Mount Davis and leave that opening like they had back in the day when they were winning World Series. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, you got to look at the revenue potential loss, even if they took that down, Charlton. I mean, that's a lot of money that went into that, came out of the taxpayers' pocket. I mean, it's something that they did down in Anaheim when the Rams left Anaheim and went to St. Louis. They tore down that part of the stadium and made it a baseball configuration once again. You know, the thing about it is, Charlton, you have to find the economics in the local markets to draw the people in.
Yeah.
I mean, to have 30,000 for a game in Oakland is not a bad attendance.
No, not at all.
When you look at Major League Baseball average around the country,
yeah,
it's probably between 30 and 35,000 on average in the Major League ballpark.
Yeah.
But you also have to put a product out there, Charlton, that people want to come see. Now, you think about the A's. As you say, they were in first place for a couple of hours.
Yep.
People wanted to see that. They show up because now you're giving us a product that we can be proud of.
Yeah.
It's amazing that owners want to add fans to give you hard-earned dollars, and we're not putting the best product on the field that we can for you. And I'll take that and take that across the country to Baltimore. When you looked at how they, ravaged that lineup, Charlton, and traded off 6 of the best players out of that lineup.
Yeah.
And you're already one of the worst teams in baseball.
Yep.
You're on record, on pace to lose 115 games. And then you get rid of your best 6 players. And so, we're on a record pace of losing anyway, so we're going to get rid of the best 6.
Yeah.
So we're going to lose even more, but we still are not reducing the ticket price.
No.
I think that's one of the things that Major League Baseball and all professional sports need to look into, Charlton. When a team is out of the playoffs officially, is that you might think about reducing the ticket price in half.
Yeah.
For that arena. At least get some butts in the seats, Charlton.
Yeah.
Give young people an opportunity that may not have could afford a normal regular season game, but now that you're not competitive, Charlton, getting to the playoffs, at least give them an opportunity to come to the game.
Yeah, I
think that would help professional sports. I mean, we see basketball arenas that are half empty all the time, just like baseball arenas.
That's true.
And you get late in the football season, Charlton, when it's 12 degrees outside and you have 3 victories up in Buffalo,
yeah,
you're not going to have a packed house.
Yeah, that's true. So it's just a matter of if you build it, they will come. But also, if you make it affordable, they'll come. I do want to say that sports is a $1 billion industry, and boys and girls sports is the foundation to this $1 billion industry. And for every athletic and sporting event, you need athletic and event insurance. We work with Ben and Mark. They've been around half a century. They work with Big C Sports, whether you're a pro team, a collegiate team, or a high school team, or your mom and pop soccer leagues. When you reach out to them, let them know Big C sent you. And just something I want to pull up too. Just around the Oakland area. And we talk about the NFL, and some people say the NFL is losing some fans because of the African-American athletes that want to have some social justice reform and criminal justice reform and anti-domestic violence and all those things that have been plaguing communities all over the country. But they made that anathema to the league, and they should not do that. I think what a lot of young kids are doing, especially inner-city kids, they're playing soccer more. They're playing soccer, and I think because soccer, number one, is worldwide. We just had the World Cup over in Russia, of all places. But when you have a fan base that's embraced primarily by a lot of people from Latin America, and then you have the inner city kids, if those inner city kids, even if it takes another 10, 15 years, because of all the stuff with CTE, all the garbage with that, and then this pushback from the NFL owners saying, we really don't care about your kids or being on your side, we want to oppose you. I think soccer's opened their doors to so many people, and it might start chipping away at what people actually do with their time. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I think intelligence chips away as far as what people do with their time. When you look at these inner city situations, like I said earlier, it comes down to reading. And when so many people watch these highlight shows, and the thing about these highlight shows, just like with us, people, for the most part, do not tell the kids what their potential for a future is.
Yeah.
And there's potential in sports. When we look at professional football every year, Charlton, and the season is about to start.
Yeah.
And
we're getting a little bit of static on your mic. I'm going to try to work with that, but go right ahead, Big C.
I think the Canadian Football League season is going on already.
Yes.
And when you look at these two leagues combined, Charlton, that opens up about 200 jobs a year between those two leagues. Now, that means 200 people are going to become unemployed also.
Yeah.
And when we look out there across the breadth of college football, Charlton, and you look at the couple thousand kids that come out every year that no longer have eligibility, as well as those who declare early entry for the draft.
Yeah.
I think, because I talked about reading earlier, that parents are doing a lot when it comes to reading. To say, son, your opportunity to become a professional and earn a living in this is very minuscule.
Yep.
You need to get that education. You need to become that doctor. You need to become that lawyer. You need to become that educator. You need to become that scientist. You need to find that profession that's going to pay you for 20 to 40 years. That's what you need to look at. And when we look at the dwindling statistics as far as the length of a professional football player's career, Charlton, hovering around 3 years. 3 years. Yes, we all see the guys on television that have played 8, 10, 12 years. You know, we're talking about Tom Brady, 15, 16 years in the league, Aaron Rodgers in the league a dozen years, Ben Roethlisberger, Eli Manning, those guys, Charlton, that have those 10-plus year careers. But look at the guys, especially here in this preseason, Charlton. There has been over 40 season-ending injuries already in 2 weeks of preseason in the NFL. Think about that. Over 40 players have had their season ended already. We're talking about number one draft picks as well as veterans, Charlton, have had their season end already. And you don't know what the recovery period is going to be for that, whether they will ever recover, come back, and pass a physical. Because if a team looks at their contract and deems that we don't want to pay you, they just don't pass you on the physical, Charlton. And your career can be over. That's how you look at this sport, Charlton, how fragile it is. And so when we have kids looking at alternatives, and not just through sports, Charlton, because even soccer, as big as it's become in the U.S., will only house so many people on a team and in a league. Basketball, very small numbers when you look at the totality of people who play basketball, whether it's in a league or even on a blacktop game, Charlton. But there's more players that outnumber any positions that ever can be created. So I think that what parents have become are more intelligent. Stop saying, I'm going to look at my kid as my 401k plan. That they're going to become a professional athlete and I'm going to have it made. Because so many parents over the decades, Charlton, have done that. They put everything into their child becoming a professional athlete. And when that child doesn't become a professional athlete, Charlton, they have nothing to fall back on because education wasn't in the forefront.
That's very well said, Big C. I was talking to someone who works around a lot of youth, and just being very candid, talking to me about some of the funding for a lot of the inner city high schools has just kind of disappeared. And I know there's always this push to, I know people don't really think about it, but busing, when it was created by the government, it was not necessarily to have integration as much as it was to integrate the resources, because wherever the white kids went, the money tended to follow. And there are people pushing back on busing, and they're pushing back on the integration of schools. But there's been a lot of inner city programs that don't have the funding. For a lot of coaches, they know what I mean. You may have to wash your own clothing. I mean, washing the team uniforms, because they don't have the money for the school to have that in their budget. And a lot of the times, a lot of kids, not just inner city, but rural kids too, that may be their biggest access to college, that they'll get noticed for some athletic ability, and then they'll get the chance to go to a junior college or even get a scholarship. And when those programs go away, it tends to hurt those kids that live in those regions, and that's when crime tends to happen. So we know that sports, playing some kind of sports, it lessens your opportunities to get in trouble because you have that mentoring. You also have that thing that we've all learned as athletes, that belief that you can do it no matter what you're going through, that you can do it. I would hope to see, I don't know how it's going to happen, if it's the government, if it's the state, but we got to keep pumping resources into inner city schools and not let them just go away as people tend to move out to the suburbs. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, that comes on voting on property taxes, and that comes down to the citizens' involvement. We can always say that we need to fund programs. But, you know, certain areas fund programs through taxes, through city taxes, through county taxes, Charlton. And when you don't have that within the inner city, they don't vote. You know, I was listening to a gentleman today talking about when he was playing with the Cowboys. And he was living in Westlake Terrell, outside of Dallas. And he looked at the property taxes on his tax bill. And, you know, every year it seemed like they were increasing the tax bill, and it was one of the highest tax rates in the state of Texas. But it was to fund the schools. He and his wife didn't have any kids. So they moved out of the district, Charlton. Because they were funding schools for other people's children, and which is not a bad thing. This is what school districts are about. So when you see the outskirt areas, Charlton, advancing, that's the reason why. they just don't move into those areas, Charlton, without paying for the upkeep of the schools, paying for the schools. They are taxed at a heavier rate, Charlton.
Yep.
So they don't mind leaving out of the inner cities to help improve their children's opportunity for life, not just through athletics, Charlton.
Yeah.
Through education.
Yeah.
When the schools are funded properly, then everything benefits from that, Charlton, from the academics through the athletics.
Yes.
But if the schools are not funded, and when we look at the inner city schools, Charlton, and the people who are paying the taxes in the inner city, Charlton, are slumlords, okay?
Yep.
They're not voting for increasing taxes. You got a 100-unit apartment complex, Charlton. You're not in voting to increase your taxes.
No, not
you
at all.
have a 500-unit apartment complex, Charlton. You're not voting to increase your taxes.
Yeah.
So when you talk about inner city school funding, that's where the government comes in, Charlton. So unless it's enforced taxing, and most businesses, Charlton, leave out of the inner cities.
Yeah.
They move out to the outer areas. When you look at car dealerships now, Charlton, they're not sitting in the inner city anymore. They're sitting out along freeways heading towards the suburbs.
Yeah.
Because they know that's where the commute traffic is, and that person is traveling is going to see their car. Whether you're looking at home furnishings or anything else, Charlton, they no longer sit downtown in the inner cities. So the inner city does not have the tax base that the suburban areas does, Charlton. So It's not about not funding urban schools, Charlton. It's about not taxing urban businesses. When you choose not to tax them, when those people who rent from them choose not to vote, where those persons and those businesses' taxes are increased, Charlton, that's the reason why those inner city schools suffer. It's not because of lack of funding.
Yeah.
It's because those people who live in those areas choose not to vote for the increase in taxes, Charlton.
Yeah, also I just want to pay homage to one of the local games in Northern California called the State Game of the Week. It was De La Salle of Concord, California versus Folsom of the Sacramento area, number 1 and 2 in California. So now De La Salle's winning streak maintains its streak, and it was a 14-0 shutout, and the Spartans looked very good. A private school versus a public school, and those are two dominant programs. But congratulations to the high school fans that turned out at Owen Field in Concord, California to watch the high school games. And as we hope more schools can keep their funding, we always know that a lot of those young kids...
You just mentioned it right there, Charlton.
Yeah.
A private school in an inner city.
Yeah.
They're going with private funding. They're going with they're going with donations. They're going with sponsorships, Charlton.
Yeah.
They're not relying on tax basis in a private school.
Yeah.
And so they're able to get their funding from elsewhere. They're able to travel nationally. They're able to travel throughout the state. And you can find a school within a 10-mile radius of that, Charlton, that does not have those same abilities.
Yeah.
Because they're technically an inner-city school without the private funding.
Yep. And
that's what I mean, because the tax base of those people who send their kids to those schools don't feel the necessity to go in and vote to attend those town hall meetings, Charlton, to put a demand on their constituents, to raise the local taxes, Charlton, of the people that they rent from, of the people that they work for, anything, Charlton.
Yeah.
So those inner city situations become more and more downtrodden because the funds are not put in through the tax base.
Well, but just a correction that Concord, California is mostly a middle-class school, and then De La Salle is in a middle-class neighborhood, but a lot of their kids come from inner cities because, it's a recruiting system that no one talks about, but sometimes those kids are picked up because they are good at athletics, and then they'll take them into the private school, get them ready for college, and that's a shame that it happens that way, but that happens all over California. It seems a lot of schools are doing that. I do want to touch a little bit on where players hope to end up. And I know we just had the college football rankings come out, but I want to touch a little bit on what happened to some of the NFL games over the weekend. It seems like the NFL is increasing its length from 15-minute quarters to 20 minutes just because they're discussing the penalties and the hits and the helmet rules this season. It seems to be taking more time, and more players have gotten injured. I don't know if it's because they're cooling off or just because I don't know what the reason is, but too many injuries. But it just seems like they're taking too many timeouts to see if something was a penalty or not. I wonder if that has an effect, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, what's happening with a lot of these injuries is lack of contact during training camp, as well as players trying to alter their hitting positions, which is they're contorting their bodies in ways that they had not expected. And when we look at all these penalties that are called, Charlton, on these roughing calls, and, leading with the helmet or not leading with the helmet, as they're trying to figure that out, that's going to increase the length of pro football games 15 to 20 minutes very easily, Charlton, because there's no definitive line on it yet.
Yeah.
There was a time in football, Charlton, where you couldn't slap a player in the head with your hand. The head slap. Deacon Jones made that, formidable move. And everybody used that for a couple decades until that was banned from the NFL. Because they said, it made a player disoriented.
Yeah.
You look at, you could call holding on every play in an NFL game, just like you can call striking with the crown of the helmet, Charlton, on every play in an NFL game.
Yeah.
And I don't think that the NFL put much thought into this process about the hitting, because how do you alter your hit table, Charlton? Everybody's watched a Major League Baseball game on television, Charlton.
Yeah.
Where they have this strike zone sitting up there, and you watch the ball come in and out of this strike zone. That's the same strike zone that you have as a football player when you're going to make a tackle.
Yep.
That's the hitting area. How do you change this target area when you're moving at full speed and that player's moving at full speed coming towards you? And so you have a collision that's occurring at about 20 to 25 miles an hour.
Yeah.
With the two players coming towards you. Think about that. If you're in your car, how quick can you change lanes at 25 miles an hour? You can't, without wavering and missing.
Yeah.
So this is what they're asking football players to do, to make that decision within 2 to 3 steps.
Yep.
How do I alter my hit plane on a player?
Yeah.
Because we're going to throw a flag on you. And while we're debating this flag, I mean, we may have a lot more time out at it, and the sponsors may love it.
Yeah.
But fans are going to become frustrated real quickly. And this is something the NFL needs to take a second look at. Yes, the game is violent. You're never going to get rid of the violence unless you take out all the hitting in the game.
Yep.
But offensive players strike defensive players just as frequently as defensive players strike offensive players. And, I was doing a little statistical table today, Charlton. I said, let me see if I can add up. I know my memory's not as good as it used to be.
Yep.
But I was sitting there charting the number of hits that I would have taken throughout my football career. There was somewhere between 18 and 20,000 game hits.
Yeah.
From high school to professional. These are game hits. We're not talking about practice hits. Now, back in those days, Charlton, we used to practice 3 times a day going to training camp.
Yep.
When we started out, it was 3 practices a day in high school and in college.
Yep.
We didn't even know what break was. and in high school, we all went both ways.
Yep.
So in college, you accumulate all of those hits for all of those years. And even in professional ball, Charlton, you had 2 a day. And this was before they broke it down to this non-contact thing in pro ball. We went out in the morning session, we had live drills.
Yep.
We went out in the late afternoon session and had live drills. So when you think about the cumulative hits that a body would have taken during those eras, Charlton, over 50,000 contact hits, 50 to 60,000 contact hit live hits.
Yeah.
That the body had to endure. And so when they're talking about now, Charlton, with all the reduction, there's going to be more injuries come from this reduction because players are going to try to alter their body on hits. See some catastrophic injuries occur from that.
And I'm not really sure how to do it, how to slow down. Just a couple of games we talked about on Friday. The Chiefs over the Falcons, 28-14. Ryan looked pretty good, but again, this is not the players that you're going to see playing against each other in the regular season. And also the Giants with a 30-17 win over the Lions. And then the Bills and the Browns, I think that was a game a lot of people wanted to watch to see what would happen with that, with McCarron. He went down for the Browns. I mean, it's sad to see that because he's not someone that's expected to play anyway, and they all want Baker Mayfield to be the starter there. And then everybody has their opinion on who's going to be the starter or not. But the Bills and the Browns, the biggest news out of that was McCarron went down with the injury. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, the Bills lost McCarron. They made a trade for him with Cincinnati during the offseason. Now, really, the pressure's on the Bills. This was a team who made the playoffs last year for the first time in a decade. Now you have a guy that's still throwing interceptions every time he gets under center, Nathan Peterman. And Allen, the young kid out of Wyoming who didn't play against any professional players when he was in college.
Yeah.
And, he has a big wind-up delivery. And so that makes it slow tough. his windup allows defensive backs to be able to make breaks on the balls. And so when he was in college, he didn't have to worry about that because he could just strong arm a ball to a position, Charlton. But now when you're in the NFL and you're winding it up, you'll see some picks.
Yeah.
And, you know, this is a kid now, Charlton, under all the pressure. Do you put Nathan Peterman in? You think about it. Last time they saw Nathan Peterman in the game, he threw 5 interceptions in the first quarter.
Yeah.
In a regular season NFL game against the Chargers. You're putting Josh Allen in, who has never started an NFL game, and you're telling him to play against NFL players now.
Yeah.
He hasn't looked all that great in the preseason. He's been adequate, but he hasn't been great because he hasn't played against starters, Charlton.
Yeah.
But you're expecting him to go out and be a savior, and he couldn't save a mid-major program in college football, and you want him to be the savior of an NFL team, Charlton?
Yeah. I tell you what, give the guys some chance to get some playing days under them. I look at the New York Jets. There's so much pressure they're trying to put on Coach Bowles with. Do they start? I mean, do they keep who they keep? Bridgewater? Or are they going to let Darnold come in and be the new Joe Namath? And if they get off to a bad start, then Bowles is in trouble. If they get off to a good start, which is rare, because Darnold still likes to throw interceptions. I want him to succeed out of USC. But at least start the season with a player who has playoff experience, and that would be Bridgewater. Most people say they want experience, but right now they're saying they don't want experience, Big C. I'm kind of confused, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, you know, Sam Darnold's still trying to figure out how to throw a professional touchdown pass, Chuck.
Yeah.
He hasn't figured out. He still knows how to throw the interceptions. He's done a few of those.
Yeah.
But Bridgewater, if you're the New York Jets, forget about what the media is saying.
Yeah.
Your best opportunity to win is with Teddy Bridgewater, who has proven that he can win in the NFL. When you look at your 3 quarterbacks on your roster, you have one quarterback that has a double-digit win as an NFL player.
Yep.
A double-digit win season as an NFL player, and that's Bridgewater.
Yeah.
McCown has never done it. Donald hasn't done it, but Bridgewater's done it.
Yeah.
So he has faced the best that the NFL has offered. And so you know he understands the game. Give yourself a chance as a team, Charlton. You put in Bridgewater. If you want to say that the future is now, then you play McDonald.
Yeah.
Even though you don't have the supporting cast around him, Charlton, to play Donald, and you go out there, say he's 1-5 at the start of the season, Charlton.
That'd be horrible.
Where's your experiment at that point?
Yeah.
You fire the head coach.
Yep.
You blame it on him. You go out there with Bridgewater, you start off at least 3-3 or 4-2.
Yeah.
Now your experiment is under a good start, Charlton, because you have a stable veteran quarterback who knows how to control an offense and is not worried about getting rattled. He's been through those early jitters.
Yeah.
You know, you got Donald, everybody said, well, you know, he can handle the New York media. He's right. He hasn't handled the New York media, Charlton, being 0-3.
That's a good point. That's a good point. And I hope that Bowles doesn't fall to the pressure, no matter what he's going to do what the ownership says. I want to swing it out also to another game that happened on Saturday on the West Coast. It was the Rams at home versus the Raiders coming in from Northern California. And the Oakland Raiders had more fans at the Coliseum. At least they were making more noise at the Coliseum than what the LA Rams had. And it was a pretty warm day at the Coliseum, too. And maybe that's just a tell sign that the Raiders can travel anywhere, but we'll see if they get the same in Las Vegas. But you still look at the Raiders, no Khalil Mack yet, but they lost that game at the Coliseum. Again, it's preseason. But why are the Raiders still getting more fans in L.A. than the Rams? Is it because they were there more recently, Big C? Your thoughts?
Yeah, it's going to be the more recent living in Los Angeles, Charlton. That team was there. They won a Super Bowl while they were there. So that fan base never left. They just didn't all move up to Oakland when the team left Los Angeles.
Yeah.
So that base of California fans, you got to think about the Raiders are the second most marketable team in the NFL merchandising-wise behind the Cowboys.
Yeah.
And so wherever they go, Charlton, they have fanfare. And when you look at these two teams, the Rams really haven't completely established what they're going to do until they move into their new stadium, Charlton.
Yeah.
They won't have their own true Los Angeles identity.
Yeah.
The last team that housed that Coliseum and brought some promise and a championship were the Raiders, Charlton.
Yeah. Well, I want to jump on another couple of games. We had the Bengals 21-13 over Dallas. And then also San Francisco, they fell to the Texans down in Houston 16-13. I thought we had two good quarterbacks playing. At least the play was good. Deshaun Watson led a scoring drive on his first possession. Garoppolo looked pretty decent at times. But give me your thoughts on those two. I think what the Houston Texans have, if their defense can live up to the billing that they should, and as accurate as Watson is with the ball, they don't even have to run him out of the pocket, even though he can. They look pretty formidable as a team that should not be looking at anything less than a good playoff run this year. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Houston was a team, Charlton, that had a lot of injuries on defense last year. And Watson showed a lot of promise. You know, he's a big chance taker at quarterback, you know, and a lot of people don't realize he threw 7 interceptions last year in that brief time that he threw the 17 touchdowns.
Yeah.
But he was so electrifying that a lot of people overlooked that. You know, Garoppolo, you know, still is trying to cut his teeth. They both played the same amount of games, you know, with their teams.
Yeah.
You know, so it's basically a matter of who gets off to a good start, who has that supporting cast.
Yeah.
Can that San Francisco defense stand up and be formidable like it was in the last part of last season? We know what Houston has on defense.
Yeah.
Can any of them still have that kick they had a couple of years ago, Charlton? Can J.J. Watt return to form? If he can return to form, Charlton, in Houston, you know the people follow under his tutelage, Charlton. No one wants to be left behind by J.J. Watt on defense. So with J.J. Watt on defense and Watson on offense, Charlton, this is a team that can be challenging to Houston, and not Houston, but to Texas, and not Texas, Tennessee in that division.
Yeah, I think that's a good. They look pretty good. We'll have to see what happens when the regular season rolls around. One more thought on NFL. Again, Tampa over the Titans 34-18, the Bears 24-23 over the Broncos, and then the Chargers 24-14 over the Seahawks. I want to bring up your thoughts as the Jaguars beat the Vikings 14-10. Adrian Peterson getting another chance. I think he rushed for just under 600 yards last year. The Redskins need someone to come in. This is his chance for everybody that said he's washed up. If he can get enough touches, maybe he can average 4 yards a carry. Maybe not likely, but he could probably run for at least 500 or 600 yards, even if he plays half the season. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I'm one of those critics of them signing Adrian Peterson. I mean, he's at the age that I was when I retired.
Yeah.
And when you think about it, you wake up in the morning and people will see AD and say, wow, man, he looks great.
Yeah.
You know, you see his body. You can walk into any gym in America and see a guy, Adrian Peterson, that looks that good and better.
Yeah.
Okay?
Thank you for the compliment, Big C.
That's in a gym. That's not playing against guys talking that are 10 years younger than you that still have the quickness and the health that you don't have.
Yeah.
Now, we saw last year when he went to New Orleans.
Yeah.
And he had to compete against Ingram and Comore.
Yeah.
Didn't work out well, Charlton, with those young running backs.
Yep.
Who were a little more aggressive than him, you know, who could do a few more things. Now, you got to understand, you got a running back that's 33 years old, and you're not bringing him in as a starter. He's not used to playing special teams, Charlton.
Yeah.
He's not used to going down on punt coverage, kickoff coverage. That's why I don't see Adrian Peterson being an asset to the Redskins. Bring a guy in that can be multifaceted. Adrian Peterson wants to be the featured running back.
Not going to happen.
That's what he wants to be. He's not going to hit the hole the way he did, Charlton, when he had that 2,000-yard season with the Vikings.
Yeah.
You got to understand that the Redskins didn't build this offense to surround around Adrian Peterson. We saw that when he went to the Cardinals last year. Yes, he had 2 100-yard games, Charlton.
Yeah.
But that was it.
Yeah.
The rest of it was feeble, under 50 yards a contest.
Yeah.
So, you know, you're not going to scare anybody when you know you have a back that can't threaten the corner.
Yeah.
Adrian Peterson can't do that anymore. Washington would have been much better served. Get some young guys that are hungry, that can be dual threats on special teams as well as being in the backfield. Adrian Peterson has been a great pro in his time in the NFL.
Yeah.
But like him and the rest of us, Charlton, there's a time to go.
There's a time to go. Last thing, tonight's game, we have some more football on Monday Night Flavor, the Ravens at the Colts. And again, we're getting preseason, but there's a lot of hope that Andrew Luck will stay healthy and play out the season. Also, Flacco's trying to stay healthy because he has someone motivating him not to slip up this year. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you know, the thing that I'm looking at with Luck, Charlton, I've watched tidbits of that first game that he played.
Yeah.
He never pushed the ball down the field more than 15 yards.
Yeah.
That's the thing that concerns me about Luck. I mean, being a competitor, being semi-healthy once again, you have to be able to threaten the defense. And if you're not going to push the ball over 25 yards down the field, Charlton, they're going to blitz you like crazy. Because they're not worried about you going deep.
That's
They're
going
to make you hold that back end. They're going to make you get rid of the ball in a hurry.
Yeah.
But until he can prove that he can down the field over 25 yards consistently, Charlton,
yeah,
the Colts' offense will be very lackluster. On the other side with Flacco, he can still throw the ball.
Yeah.
They're still trying to develop an identity in Indianapolis, not Indiana, but Baltimore.
Yeah.
Until they do that, I mean, they were knocked out of the game last year, in the playoffs by the Bengals at the end of the season.
Yeah.
But other than that, Charlton, I think this offense will be okay.
Well, I tell you what, it's still preseason. I hate the injuries happening. I love seeing the Oakland A's back in the swing of things. I love the fact that so many people have the chance to say that they can compete for their division as we get ready for all the great things happening with the college football kicking off. I go back to the words of the great Drew Bundini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man. He would always tell Ali, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young man, rumble, Big C. What are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
Well, Charlton, there's actually only 10 days left until the opening of the kickoff for the college football season. But today, University of Alabama allocated out $600 million for facility improvements in Tuscaloosa.
Wow.
Now, I was trying to do the math, just on that alone.
Yeah.
$600 million, and you said some of these programs are scrapped for cash.
Yep.
Now, if you were to pay all the players within the Alabama facility, as they say, facility upgrade, $15,000 a year, Charlton, and that's every sport. How long would it take you to go through $600 million, Charlton? A couple of decades, okay?
A couple of decades, yeah. I tell you what, they say they're strapped for money. They're also strapped for the truth. They're speaking of the truth every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide. Follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. As we always tell you, there's never, ever any excuse for domestic violence. If you know any man or woman going through that garbage, please call 911, because no man or woman should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.